Hey everybody, this is Rich from the Metal Cell podcast. I want to give a shout out to our main sponsor, Rising Suns, the award-winning brewery in Cork. If you're in Cork, call in and have a beer on us. Delighted to welcome Evan and Joe back to the Metal Cell forums. How are we, lads?
Fantastic.
Getting on rightly.
So we're missing our fellow sister in metal, Danielle. She can't make it tonight. And then I wanted to contact Cian, because I suppose what we're going to talk about tonight on the main topic is about band roles, management and education in metal. And I thought the lads from God Alone would be ideal to come on, since they've come through the whole lot and came out the other side. So as it turns out, Cian is in Manchester, so he said he'd do it. And then he couldn't make it back in time to the hotel or wherever he was going to do it from. So he sent a message then to Jack and Jake. So I got Evan onto the case then. Over to you, Evan.
Yeah, I rang Jake first and was like, are you doing this podcast or what's going on? And he was like, man, I'm literally just about to play a gig. And I was like, oh, fuck, right. Okay, sorry. It must have been Jack that Cian was saying that would do it. So I hung up, called Jack. Jack's like, a second I heard it and I could hear that it's like, that's either he lives with about 40 or 50 different people, or he's out in a pub or something. And it turns out he's playing the same fucking gig. So I don't know what the hell Cian was saying to them or to us or to whatever, but
turns out they're all playing gigs.
Yeah, it's weird if they were doing the podcast like live from Cypress Avenue. Like, got caught rotten now that I'm not at it as
well. Anyway, lads, you have been busy vocals, I will say that. Both of you were playing gigs over the weekend. Evan, you probably played, what, 2, 3? Was it 2 more than Joe? 2 more gigs is more than Joe. You have 3 gigs?
We had 4 altogether.
Oh, 4, okay.
Yeah.
So that was with Harbinger, and there was another band.
Trench Knife were on the Belfast and Limerick dates.
Oh, and how are they sounding, Trench Knives, these days?
Absolutely unbelievable. They're such a pleasure to watch, Tom. And even just like I wish they were on the full tour. They're just the loveliest lads, and they're just so tight. They're so tight, especially with Tom. Tom's after taking them to a whole new level. Like they're on a complete other level of tightness.
Yeah. And how did the tour go in general?
Amazing. I think I said it as well about the last tour, that it was like the best one. Like we felt like things are moving up, but this was on a whole other level. Like,
wow.
Playing Dublin on a Sunday, we were like, look, if Harbinger want to do it, we'll add the date. We'll do whatever if they want to do it, it's grand. Thinking we just a Sunday night in Dublin. We're thinking we no one.
Where was it on, Ev?
Upstairs in Whelan's, and there was like 90 something people there, and it was absolute madness.
Wow, holy shit!
No. The same day you're supposed to go to mass. Like that's mental. In Ireland, like, so yeah, absolutely buzzing. The lads in Harbinger are just the nicest guys ever. They really have their shit together as well, so it's nice to be around people like that. It's kind of like,
and it's good for them as well to see the crowds turning out.
That's it. Yeah, it's only their second time. The first time they were over with Decapitated, so that's like a guaranteed crowd.
Oh wow!
I think those gigs were sold out. Were they? Were the Decapitated ones sold out?
Yeah, I saw them. That was in, I think, Voodoo, it was Voodoo Dublin. I'm nearly sure.
Yeah, it was Dolan's in Limerick anyway, because it was John.
Oh, fuck it. Yeah, that's right. I've seen, do you know what? I think I've seen Decapitated more than I've seen any fucking other band. I'm nearly convinced at this stage. Yeah, I've seen them so many times. Just seem to be following me around. Like,
I'm like that with God Alone.
And Joe, you had a big one as well, man. The Gamma Bomb reunion, and it was all for charity. How did that go, my friend?
3 gig back in hometown. So we're originally from Newry, which doesn't really have a metal scene, so I had to kind of import it. But it was great. It was good. Like similar kind of sort of size venue as Cypress Avenue or whatever, like 80 or 90 people or whatever. So, but it was great and really, really nice to have all the old members and stuff there getting up and doing sets. So we did like a set with the original lineup, and then the Dangerfields did a set, and then we got up and did our normal headline set. So it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
you're
was it
all
doing-
fans of Dangerfields anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, big time. Big time. But yeah, it's just really nice seeing everyone, and like there's some of the guys, like the guy who played drums on our first album, I haven't even seen him in 17 years, never mind played with him or anything. So, and it's nice as well, just getting all the water onto the bridge and stuff so that we can go into our old age, getting all these sort of people up for the tuner pool.
Yeah, yeah. And how was it playing with them? Like, as in, how many practices did you actually manage to get in? Because I know one of the last times we were talking, it was kind of like you were just about to go in for a jam.
Yeah.
We
just did one. So we did. Everyone just did a load of homework, and we did one jam with the old rhythm guitar player and lead guitar player and old drummer, and then and that was about it. But yeah, it actually went all right. It's one of those things, Ev, I'm sure you probably have the same kind of thing. It's like whenever you play some really, really old song, the muscle memory is still sort of in there somewhere, like hiding where useful information could be,
You're like, I have no idea what's coming next, and you're like, oh, I'm so fucked, I'm just going to ruin this, and then you do it. Like, oh, okay, yeah. It's like you're listening for the first time as it's going, but you're physically doing it.
But yeah, it was nice to get that done, and just sort of still working away, trying to finish up the album and doing all that sort of blather. Had an unbelievable bump this month in Spotify. We're up
I saw that 250,000.
That's unbelievable.
But
how would you put that down to, Joe?
I think it's just the algorithm. Once you hit a certain number, it starts suggesting you for playlists and stuff like that.
Okay,
so
which is a bit of a
massive thing.
It's a bit of a crapper, really, because it's not really fair on bands who should be getting more exposure like that. Whereas it's not someone at Spotify deciding, oh, let's give these guys a break. It's just the algorithm saying, oh, right, this is going up, so let's just add this on the playlists or whatever,
Yeah. YouTube does the same kind of thing, where you'll start coming into more, recommended videos, the more people are looking at it. So it's like if you have a really good first day or first launch, it can skyrocket very quick, kind of pre-saves and just the build-up and everything.
So is that a free gig-wise now, Joe, for a month or two? Are you just concentrating on the album now?
Yeah, we've got something coming out for Paddy's Day, and then just sort of get the album finished and organise some tours and stuff.
Mm. Okay, and while we're on about gigs, Evan, do you want to give a shout out for anything that's coming up in the horizon for us?
We have... I'll do it in order of things happening. Their next Dead Cult gig is 24th of March with Soothsayer. It's their first Cork show in 4 years. And
imagine that's nuts.
This gig is when we posted about it, I haven't really got into properly promoting it, and then every so often I look at my phone, there's a ticket bought, and it's very obvious that people want to go see them because it's been so long. We have Horrenda, we have Astralist, and then first Uncultivates gig.
Oh yeah, Jesus, yeah, you're after joining them, and how's that going?
No, it's some crack.
It's an education, is it?
It's hard, but it's great crack. The lads, being able to play with the lads is great. They're all friends as well, so the way Keane writes things is very spastic, I guess, in the best way possible. So it's one of those things that things don't make sense, but if you just stop thinking normally, it'll make sense.
Okay.
And then Worn Out are in Kilkenny on the 8th of April.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. We actually got interviewed in the Dublin gig by someone from Kilkenny. So it's nice to see a younger thing that there is people that want it so bad, but just don't have the gigs happening.
Yeah.
So if, I'd love to be able to do more stuff down there if it goes well, but it should do it. Chemical Elixir on it, so they'll be the pull. And then Unsane in May.
Oh man, Jesus, they're coming thick and fast. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and then I really blew my load there on a few things, but
yeah, Unsane. Again, how does a band like Worn Out get onto them, or can you give us an idea of how it came about?
This literally the second it was announced, just going through every page, making sure that I find sending emails, like just be the first to do it, being like, I want this gig. Like
Okay.
no one, like I kind of went in with the mindset that I was going to get it. I felt like we would be a good fit. I found their managers, like their booking agents email, got onto the lads in Cypress Avenue as well, who are lovely lads, and sent over EPK, like I kind of have those kind of emails just ready, like everything that I need to send.
Okay.
Always have it on hand. And just be the first person to get it, like if you didn't know about it beforehand. But yeah, absolutely buzzing for that. And then we have more tours and some big stuff to announce then for later on in the year. And next week.
Yeah, and I just want also to give a shout out as well. So it's Rome Kingdom are organising Bone Fest. So that's on Saturday, the 11th of March, in the State, the Leveler. Ocus, Rome Kingdom, Partholon Sensor, and 7.5 tons of beard. And that's on...
Where's that?
Sorry?
Where is that?
It's on McHugh's venue in Drogheda, Saturday the 11th of March.
Like you were saying that was somewhere in Cork there. I remember seeing the
Some
poster.
lineup.
7.5 tons of beard alone.
Sure. Yeah,
That'd be interesting to see if those gigs in Cork start, or in Drogheda start coming back. Because it used to be like a really, really popular spot 20, 30 years ago for stuff.
Yeah, and that's a good venue, McHugh's, by all accounts.
I've never been.
Like everyone, Acid Rain and all those sort of bands all played there.
There you go, yeah. So, yeah, it's nice. I don't know, is it a thing? They might just be doing this one thing in memory of Bones.
You're seeing some more stuff opening up.
That's the way.
I saw Night Demons Irish tour, and it was like 8 shows long. Like I think they were doing Cork, Limerick, Drogheda, Dublin, Derry, doing like the full spread. So it'd be interesting, like if that goes well, will that kind of open those venues up a bit more? Will we start seeing, more bands doing more than 3 shows in Ireland,
Are you sure Night Demon are playing Cork?
Yeah.
Fuck,
Indeed.
how did I miss that? Okay, that's one to look out for as well. Didn't even realise that. And of course, the Siege are after announcing 2 lineups so far. It's getting interesting. How many more do you reckon is left? Is there a 3rd and 4th, or just maybe one more? It's hard to say, isn't it?
There'll definitely be another one.
Oh, there'll definitely be another one. I'm just wondering, will there be...
I could imagine there's 4. Like, there might even be... I don't know, because it's when you see them all, like, for the day lineup. How many bands actually play the Siege? Because there's 3 stages.
Yeah. So it's exciting. What's been announced so far is really exciting anyway.
Oh, definitely. I'm really hoping to see Corrosa on Warehouse. Like, just its sound and feel wise, they deserve it, yeah. And I think it'll just be like, I would love to see them at like 5-6 o'clock rather than, because I think if you put them on too late, it could be messy, like, because people would literally just fall into a trance and just like, but if you put them 5-6 o'clock, people would be blown away. Do you know what I mean? And like, everyone's kind of compass mentis enough that they can really take it in, like, and even getting the younger kids to be able to see them as well, to be like, that's something you should aim for. Yes,
very much so, yeah. Okay, so that's roughly the gig roundup. If you want us to shout out for any gigs, be sure to give us a message and we gladly announce them. But again, give us a heads up a month before, at least a month before the gig comes on, if not 2 months. Right, I sent you 4 songs to review. The first one is Collapser. It's called Whalegasm. And Collapser are a melodic groove metal band from Stoke in the UK, formed in 2020, influenced by bands such as Gojira, Sabbath and Mastodon. The quartet combine doom-drenched riffs with a dual vocal attack, forming their own unique blend of sonic dirt. So shout out to Steve, Sam, Dan and Neil for sending this in. And as I said, this is Whalegasm.
freedom. They'll pull you down on me and I'll slowly erase them. It's your home now. In this sea of abandon. Black smoke below everyone. That crooked jaw. They'll bend the burning mouth. Spit your body back to shore. It's your home now. In this sea of abandon. It's your home now.
So the claps are making a mark on you.
Do you know, I think they're cool. I think their vocalist has like a mix of Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, but also like a slight Mike Patton vibe to it. I think they're using that kind of Meshuggah, not to try to compare them to a lot of bands, but like it. There's almost like a simplistic version of Meshuggah in some of the groove things. That's really, it's like, I think it does sound really cool. I absolutely hate the drum sound, and I can't tell if it's real or not, but
they have a drummer,
yeah, but like I think that's more of a modern production style that happens a lot, but their actual like talent and songwriting is great. Like if they're doing that live to the same caliber, I think they'd be. I'd like to see them at something like Bloodstock. You know, I think they were good, absolute treat at Bloodstock.
Yeah, I like the way the melody came in there with his vocals and the synth.
I think it's a very, like, what I like about it is like they're using vocals as an instrument.
Yeah,
rather than, it doesn't seem like vocals are just thrown on for the sake of it. It does seem like the vocals were given space to add to the song. You know, it's like everything was written together rather than like, okay, here's an instrumental track, will you throw some vocals on that? So, and
I think space is the key word there, because every instrument has that space. There's room.
It does, yeah. Everything knows when to lay back and stuff.
Joe?
It kind of reminded me of something from the Resident Evil soundtrack or something. I don't know why that was, but you know, like at the start, like the Atmos is very good in it. You know, I think that they build the atmosphere really, really well. I think did they say the two singers?
There's so Steve is lead guitar, vocals, and Sam is bass and vocals. So I'm presuming.
I think maybe the two styles of singing are too similar, like because they both come across as very Anselmo-ish to me.
Didn't even realize.
I suppose it's not like it's not really my style of riffing and stuff like that. I would agree with Ev that it does sound very modern, processed, and like drum machiney. But like I think that is probably that's sort of the style of that sort of music, you know.
Yeah.
But like again, fair play to the guys going for 2 years and bringing out stuff this quality. You know, it goes to show that people can really like sit in their bedrooms and hone their craft and like come out with pretty good sounding demos and stuff from just nothing. You know.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it too. So yeah, a thumbs up as well from me. Okay, second track is Nebularis and it's Cataclysm. So this is an Irish band from Dublin. Nebularis is a 3-piece technical metal project that encapsulates the essence of science fiction cinematic film scores with powerhouse progressive arrangements that exceed expectations. The band's debut single, Cataclysm, is a precursor to their full-length album, which is currently getting the finishing touches by engineer, producer, musician Ben Wanderers of the Enigma Division and Charbonne, did I?
Yeah, Charbonne.
Yeah. So on vocals is Hightam, guitars is more Sheeran, drums Damien, and session bass by Terry McHugh. We'll give this a Joe, what you think?
Yeah, really good. Like, it's definitely very technical and progressive. I'm a fan of Nevermore and stuff, and I can hear loads of like sort of hints to that kind of style of metal. So I think like there's probably a lot of appeal for people who like anything from Dream Theater-y stuff to I don't know, like thrash, you know, because like a lot of the riffs and a lot of the drums and stuff are kind of like forbidden, those kind of bands-ish. Yeah, like the thing, I don't really like melodic choruses in songs like this because I always kind of think that, you know, whenever you're thinking about two styles of music like meeting together, they should like have more of a mesh. I think, you know, and like I think that it can be a bit of a, I know, a bit done, like it's done too much. This kind of let's have heavy verses and then just have singy kind of choruses, you know, the other way around, like, you know, and having like harsh choruses and stuff, but. That's like just my personal taste. Like to me, whenever I hear a chorus like that, it always takes me out of the heaviness zone that I was in, you know?
Yeah. I just struggle with it in relation to them as a band because I can hear more as musicians, as in solo musicians.
Like the last 2 points you just made are like exactly the thing. I think the thing that you were saying, Joe, with you know, it being when you have a heavier verse and then it's like I think I had the ick from it from like, you know, metalcore back in the day where it was like all the crabcore kind of thing, and then guy just comes in with some like angelic vocal, but it's definitely like a musician's album. It sounds like it could be either the drummer's solo album, bassist solo album.
It's Mo Sharon. It's definitely
this like I follow Mo. I think she's absolutely excellent. Haitham as well. He's incredible. I remember seeing Eyes Closed back in the day when they were playing in like the Zoo in Kilkenny, when like Jay from Red Enemy and Hero and Error was drumming for them. Like he was to be honest like a massive influence on like me being like what level you can get as an Irish band, but it's very like everyone's individual parts are just absolutely phenomenal.
That's what I found with it.
Not at all the type of thing that I would listen to, but it's at such well crafted and well done musicianship level that it's like I don't feel like I can really put it down in any way, because there's so much well done craft in this that it's I can appreciate each instrument in it for just being absolutely amazing. It's not the type of song
that pretty crazy about a lot of this stuff recently is like what a huge massive influence Mike Patton seems to be having on like new generations of bands, because like even 10 15 years ago, like people obviously loved Faith No More, but you weren't seeing vocalists coming out with that same kind of style, and we're seeing it all the time now, which is like it's good to see people like trying something different like that, you know.
The other thing as well with that is Mike Patton is such an incredibly varied vocalist that people probably don't even realize that they are influenced by it. There's so many different avenues that you can go from. Even just saying that like Haitham does have that, like, you know, that big Patton kind of vibe to him, so
yeah, it's like it's hard to kind of put a finger on it, really. It's just missing maybe the glue to make it that really impressive debut single. Maybe there's better songs on it, like the musicianship is second to none and the vocals. It's just missing for me just that catchiness, that kind of thing that you'd have it. It's very hard to think of it after listen to it once. When you go away, you can't. It's not in your head. I'm after hearing it 5 or 6 times and I still don't have the pattern.
I think though,
do you understand that kind of way? That's the way.
I know. I actually 100% get what you're saying, but I think with that style of music, it's like I could be completely wrong. It's not really about like writing a hook, and it's not about showing off. It's just it's a different kind of song. So because I agree, like there's no thing that gets stuck in my head, but like I don't write stuff that has like hooks really in it. I think it's just a certain style that they're doing, and I know they're doing it really, really, really well. I feel if I'm like trying to Like I would badly produce that for them because I try and make it sound more like something to suit me when they're doing what they're doing is excellent for the style and genre that they're in.
Yeah, and look, they've Ben Wanderers like of the Enigma division producing it, so that's the level where they're at, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thumbs up either way, you know. Keep up the great work, lads. Looking forward to the second single. Okay, the third song is a song called The Doolahan, and it's from Terror Syndrome. So this is an interesting one. It's Rowan from Cork. He's been doing this since 2021, and he started off when he was 16, so he's now 18. He hasn't done any live shows yet. It's a solo project, so he's heavily inspired by Dance with the Dead and their amazing mix of synth and metal. And so he said he's got an array of chilled out tracks and heavier tunes as well. So the EP is coming out on the 3rd of March. And the person doing the intro to this is Thomas Hines of Feroci Gone in Uachtig. So yeah, interesting. Have a listen and see what you think. This is the
Doolahan, a headless horseman, riding on a black horse, or holding his own head, and he holds it high. He has a terrifying grin. It's going from one side of his face to another. His eyes are jumpy and it's nearly like his night vision, looking into the distance in the dark. And the Doolahan stops riding, someone is to die. When he calls out a person's name, he draws the soul of that person. That person drops dead.
I must admit, I fucking love driving the car to this fucking tune. Such great entertainment. Anyway, over to you, Ev.
When you're saying driving the car, I was just imagine like there was a game. Joe, do you remember Wipeout?
yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
When I was listening to it, I was just like, if they'd done a new Wipeout, something like this would be perfect.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah. Or if it was on Cyberpunk or anything like that. Like, yeah. I think it's great. Like as a song, like as a band, I'm kind of like, but that's how would I describe it now? It's like that's a great composing. Do you know what I mean? Like for if it was used in a film or like anything like that. But I'm very interested to hear what other stuff he does, because if he's 18 and he's doing stuff like that, and he's saying he has all these chill things, I'd love to see if he gets in a band what kind of music he can do, if he has a lot of different kind of elements in him. But like as a song, I wouldn't sit and listen to that. But again, like you're saying, if I was driving somewhere, I'd be like, you know, fuck it, we'll make this the soundtrack for something. Like, do you know what I mean? Like really, really well done composition. Like I think I'm looking forward to seeing this now, what he can do. Very, very. I think he has a good ear.
Yeah.
He could be someone very big. You know, I don't know what it is about it, but I just pictured it, like, if music makes me think visually,
Yes. Yeah. Very good stuff.
then
Yeah.
it's done something. It's not like I'm going to sit and listen to it, but I pictured so many different scenarios. That's a massive thing. Like, so fair play to him.
Yeah. Joe?
This is like really in the zeitgeist at the minute, this kind of stuff, isn't it? Like if you look at Carpenter Blunt and Perturbator and stuff like that, like a lot of this kind of stuff is like getting really, really big. And like, you know, as Ed says, this is like, it is a guy, you know, and a computer kind of making this music, but the composition is really, really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think the thing with this kind of stuff is it has that, like, again, sort of like early 2000s horror game kind of like, you know, vibe, and a bit of like Rob Zombie or something in it. Like, so out of all the stuff we've listened to, I could see this going really, really huge just because that kind of stuff is really popular at the minute, you know? And like, as stuff like Perturbator shows, you don't really need to be anything apart from just someone who composes good music. And that's it. You know, if it catches on with people, it'll catch on. Like,
yeah, and the subtle changes through it as well. You know, I mean, he is good at his craft and learning, and you know, there's definitely
it does have that White Zombie. You know, that super kind of 90s, but like you can, as you said, like you can really picture the kind of like, you know, House of a Thousand Corpses type stuff that would accompany music. You know,
It's interesting now. I mean, but a title like the Doolahan is kind of this mythical Irish. I think it's a horse or something like that. But like, I mean, if he's kind of going to bring Irish mythology into it and have this dance kind of slant to it,
you know,
what?
He's working with Gluban and Flublau. I'm sure they all. That's kind of a.
Yeah.
They probably all talk about that. Like, and delighted as well. Bring more of it.
Yeah, very impressive, Rowan. Keep in touch, man. Thumbs up from us. Okay. Track 4 is Rope Maker. And this is Paean. Paean, Paean. So the multi-instrumentalist Dave Slattery, originally from Portarlington and Laois, Dave began working on his debut album back in 2019 in Galway, where he has resided since 2004. The debut LP, entitled Interwoven, features 8 brutal cuts of majestic, technical and progressive death compositions. He enrolled the talents of former Elinkas drummer Rory Guyett for an instrumental album packed with monolithic riffs, unpredictable arrangements. So speaking of the track, Slattery says, the inspiration from this track comes from my love of doom and sludge metal. Bands like Yob, Crowbar and Pelican have been favourites over the years. Doom metal places an emphasis on simplicity, groove and emotion, which are the cornerstones of the genre, and these traits are hopefully represented in this track. Okay, let's have a listen. This is Paean. right, Joe, to you.
I don't really like this, to be honest. Like, I think a lot of this kind of music is really dependent on that kind of production to kind of sound good, you know? Like, to me, this kind of doomy stuff should always have some sort of like first Sabbath album kind of vibe about it. And like, I think whenever you have production like this, like the songwriting is nearly geared towards the double bass drum pattern, you know, and like that like open rhythm guitar sound. And it's like, if you take that kind of away from it, I don't think there's a lot of meat on the bones for being an instrumental section like that. But like, again, that's just my reference. You can tell this guy obviously knows what he's doing, because like it sounds incredibly tight and well put together, but like put together is like the way I would put it, like, you know.
Okay, Evan.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. My only thing is, and like I'd say everyone that's in like a instrumental band will be sick of hearing this, but I feel like it's written as if there's supposed to be vocals on it, because I know, Joe, you don't like the kind of open thing, the rhythmic thing. I feel like, and that can be overdone, like especially when it's just that, but I feel like with like a vocalist, the right vocalist over that, it's like the rhythmic double kick thing is actually just the perfect bed to have a very nice melody, either maybe another instrument on it. Because I know, I read an interview, I think it was, with him, that he doesn't want to do it live. I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure I read something that he was saying he doesn't really want to, it might have been something from Overdrive, but he doesn't want to do it live. But I really, really think that if because Rory's drumming on this is just excellent. Like he's so tight. I'm actually delighted to hear him playing again. You know, like I miss Lenkus, like, but
like you'd look at what Sam Ellis did with his solo project, where he actually came out and sang on it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a different take then, isn't it, really?
It is, yeah. I think as well, though, like when I'm mentioning Rory, that's just as a fan of him as a musician. Like he's more of a session musician on this, I guess, is what it seems to be. But I mean, if he's not going to do it live, I would love for him to like look into different vocalists. And I know when you're an instrumental band, like you're sick of hearing that, but like I listen to a lot of instrumental music, and it's written a certain way. It's, you know, it's not with this. It just seems like if there's just that vocal level missing from it. I really, really like this. I think it's class. I just can't unhear what I can't hear, if that makes sense. Yeah. But because a lot of instrumental stuff is written a certain way, whether it could be, if it's very metal kind of like mathy, it could be very quick changes. With this, it just seems that all the changes are, you know, exactly the length that a vocal would be here. Then you do this, it's like it's laid out to have vocals on it, but they haven't.
Well, like he's saying, like the emphasis is on simplicity, groove, and emotion. I think he achieved that with it without a doubt.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm not saying, like, again, I do really, really like it. I guess it's one of those things that when I'm hearing, I'm like, again, everyone else in the entire world might disagree, but like,
I don't know. It made me sit up and notice. And again, I'm actually really looking forward to hearing more of this.
I need to hear it like in an album context. I might.
Yes.
Like if I'm going for a walk, listen to it. Might not like, but as a standalone thing, when I'm judging on one section, because a lot of instrumental things as well, you'll find the songs will bleed into one in some way.
Yeah.
But there's a bigger picture that you'll tell musically rather than vocally that might be lost, I guess.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, and again, the place to listen to it is in the car, and just Makes that bit more sense.
Yeah, bass tone is sick as well.
Yeah. Okay, so well done there. Big shout out to Dave Slattery for sending that in to us. Look out for their Rope Maker album, and that is coming out soon. It's called Interwoven. So thanks, lads, for that. And we'll move on to the main subject of the night. It's something that I want to talk to you about in general, because there's a few aspects to this. So it's about band management, people's roles in bands, and also maybe looking at the educational side of for people that want to have a career in music. The fact that it's heavy metal, I don't think it will change much in relation to what we're going to talk about, or maybe it will. I'm not sure, but let's open up the discussion in relation to maybe band roles first. Both of you obviously are in bands, and both of you, I'm just interested. I know, Evan, obviously you're more or less taking control a lot more than others in relation to maybe we'll say the management of the band. That'd be fair to say. It was originally anyway. No, things have changed.
It's not like I would never even entertain the idea that like I'm like a fucking Ayatollah.
No, far from it. No, and I'm not suggesting that, but you're more involved, we'll say.
Well, I guess like the booking gigs, social media. There's a lot of things like that are, but then you'd have Brian that would do a lot of like the design things and like if we get merch stuff, it's like Brian does the merch mock-ups. He does like I can't do that at all.
Yeah.
So it's like you everyone can have a role in the band, and the other thing is like you can be like, okay, everyone has to have a role, but there's strength in knowing weakness as well. That if some guy is like, you know what, I'm actually just shit hot at playing drums, and that's what I'm going to do. If everyone else does everything else, or even if one person, like if you have a band leader and that works for your band, like, and you have full trust in them, go for it. But you can run into a lot of problems with people wanting to do stuff for the sake of it when it's more just an ego thing to say, I want to do this, and then fucking it up left, right, and center.
Yeah. Joe, what role would you be in Gamma Bomb?
Jack of all trades and master of none. You know what? I think because we've been on the go for 20 years, things change because like if someone has kids or, has a family crisis or something like that, or, people have to be able to take a step back. So like, it is good to be able to say if the guy who looks after all the accounts in the band has something going on in his life where he can't give that attention, it's good to be able to say, listen, don't worry about it. Just turn up to do the gigs.
Yeah.
So being flexible about that sort of stuff is very, very important. But it's also good to like all be on the same page, whenever you start out. I know some bands where like when we started, we all agreed not to get driving licenses so no one would have to drive. And we didn't none of us could drive until we were like in our mid-20s, just so we would never have to drive the band around. And like I know some other bands where like there's one guy drives and he's doing like, 250 miles a day and stuff. So I think that things like that are important to try and sort of define roles that people are happy. As you said, Ev, there's no point in getting someone who failed, every maths exam ever to do your accounts,
Yeah, exactly.
And like, I think early on in bands' careers, you get a lot more of people saying things like, I can do the front cover of the album or, stuff like that, which is grand. But like, the more you can outsource stuff like that, the better. But then on the flip side of it, I would say that, the more that you can do stuff like do all your recording at home and get good at that sort of stuff, the more you can save money and,
we had a tendency to try do absolutely everything except the recording thing all ourselves. And it's like, I think when it comes to artwork as well, it's unless someone like in the band will give you something that you're just straight away like, yes, that's perfect. It's like a lot of the stuff, and this is like artwork with absolutely anything, it can be sometimes better to be like, right, if you outsource somebody to do it that you really want to work with and like, you know, have through, it can oftentimes like help the band to not, because if you like, if it's one thing if you pay someone to send you something and then you give them changes or whatever, like being like, oh yeah, we're thinking more this or like this or don't like this, you know, no matter how well you put it, like when it's someone, when you're in a band, you can be very close together that it's, you know, like if someone can say, you know, it's like, oh, I think maybe this should be green, and someone could take offense to that, and you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to hold this for next time you bring something in. It's like, I can guarantee you everybody has had that in a band. So it's sometimes you got to really, you know, like when it comes to merch mock-ups and stuff, like, or there's a few posters that I've got Brian to do, and it's just like, I've full faith being like, yeah, cool, absolutely. Like if I have an idea, I'd be like, maybe something like this or whatever, but he might just come with stuff himself. Same with Alex when it comes to video stuff. He just comes, drops stuff in, but like, what do you think? But I don't want us to film our own music video, you know? It's because it's like you really do need your mental, you need a lot of rest mentally when it comes to being in a band. That like, I would say like, don't like, not even pick your battle, but be like, is this worth all of us trying to figure out this one thing when we could get someone that we all love the work of, that we're trying to like maybe emulate in some way? It's like, why don't we just get them to do it? That like, if we have to pay them in the long run, we're going to have so much more energy to play gigs and write music, because after all this shit, when it comes down, you still have to write music, and that can be the most draining part of it all. Like,
yeah, because you're backing up what Joe was saying there about outsourcing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to delegate away from the band and to give it to someone else, especially with artwork and stuff. Because, you know, if you've got one guy in the band that thinks he's an artist and it's pretty shit, you know, might do for a demo or two, but like after that, you're gonna have to fucking be I suppose, what would you say? Be flexible and have good communication skills.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a funny kind of situation as well, though, because like every band, no matter what way it works, like unless your band is called like Dio or Bon Jovi, where you're clearly the guy who runs the show, like, you know, I think every other band has to be some sort of democracy, you know, and like bands that aren't like Megadeth, you know, where they try and like say force Dave Mustaine's way, like they keep burning through many members of the band, whereas like I think other bands like Metallica, I suppose they're a democracy, but there's two more equal people than the other two, but they still have some sort of democratic vote. And like there's loads of bands like The Doors and Radiohead, they just, and we do the same thing, we split all our royalties just all equally, evenly, like, you know, and then that way you're never in a situation where people are going to get into arguments about all that kind of stuff, you know. So I think it can be super important trying to figure out what way does the band work, you know. There's like, people tend to think because they do more work, that means that they are more in control of a band, or, you know, have more of a right than someone else. And the best thing to do is like always try and make sure that you're in a position where everyone's happy with the decisions being made, instead of, you know, trying to say, oh, I want to try and get my idea in there instead of his, you know.
Yeah.
Transparency is such a massive thing that I think people don't really push for as much as they should in bands. Like, you know, kind of, if someone has an idea or they want to go through with something, or like if there's an update on anything, just like make sure everyone knows, even if no one replies, just, you know, always let people know this is what's going on. Like, you might avoid, but
that is important. Like if someone is dead set on the idea of doing a yellow t-shirt and everyone else doesn't want to do it, but that person's like really wants to do it, it's probably a good idea to just be like, let's get some of them done, so that, you know, we're not like, you're not annoying people just for the sake of not letting them do it, you know, when it's not something that isn't, it's not really a big deal, like, you know.
100%. I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah, definitely, man.
So I mean, when you look now at certain bands now, I suppose the Irish metal scene isn't big enough really for a lot of bands to have managers. But then there is certain bands that do have managers. And you would wonder a few things then would come into question in relation to the particular band, how much they're paying the manager. Are they paying for fucking a PR agent as well? Is that supplied? And like, it's a whole different set of skills when it comes to dealing with a manager, or for a manager to deal with a band. Lots of patience and probably a steep learning curve as well, trying to deal with maybe 4 different personalities in the band. So, like, how difficult is it, would you say?
I don't think there's any band on the island of Ireland who have a manager who's a manager who manages lots of metal bands, of note or whatever. I think that most of the managers, and like Ev would probably say the same, are people who are mates with the band and are helping them out,
Yeah.
They're both the roadie, the manager, the photographer.
Is that like those managers? That's cool. Thing that I so fucking shit sick of is like this thing with a lot of bands now. It's like, I feel like just because, like, if a band sees Something Records, like they get a message off Something Records, they're like, oh yeah, and we're like, oh, we'll, like, because they're thinking already, can't wait to make a post that says, oh, we just signed with fucking Socks Records or something, whatever. But and they're like, it's like, but then you go on to that, being like, oh, fair play. You click that record labels social media and look them up, and it's like the worst MS Paint kind of bullshit looking, like, as in absolute cowboys. And you're like, hang on now, did you think that being signed to a label makes you more of a professional band? But then when you look at some of the labels that they're signing to, and it's like, you'll have such a crazy mix of artists, number one, which means they're not probably focusing in on something, and it's just like the worst graphic design you've ever seen. And it's like, these are the type of people that click, like, when you get like a virus thing being like, ooh, baby, watch me come, and you're like, sick, unreal, yeah, no worries. Like, if you're that kind of dumbass that's gonna like be like, why would you, like, you have to know your band's worth. And it's like, you can go your entire career without having a manager or like a label or anything, but it's like, find one that works for you and is good, not just to be able to say you have one or you're working one. Because all you're doing in that sense, if like you get some person like, oh, this is our manager, and I'm like, have you ever fucking been to a gig? Like, what the it's like, everything is misspelt. And then like, it's, again, I can't stress enough, if you go straight onto a website or a YouTube page or Facebook or Instagram, and it's like very blatant, like MS Paint kind of like plop, 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 like just crap. It's like, I'm going to look at this band being like, all right, yeah, no, fuck these guys. It's like, no way. This was made 10 minutes beforehand. It's like, there's a Netflix documentary coming up about this now, and I'm not going to be part of it. There's no way.
Yeah. There doesn't seem to be many anyway in that position, but I think it's just
there's a few, yeah. There's a few.
Yeah, there's a few, but like, I mean, but it's
I think the situation is that if you're in Ireland is such a small country, like, you don't really need someone to help you do anything in this country. Like, everyone in a band is well capable of contacting promoters or printing t-shirts and doing stuff like that. I could understand if bands were like, oh, we have a guy in Germany who manages us and tries to, further the career of the band. But like, in
UK bookings and stuff. Yeah.
A lot of cases, what you get with people who are offering management or PR services to smaller bands, like, what they're in essence doing is trying to, like, they're soliciting bands money out of these bands every single month to try and, like, give them PR bumps or listener bumps and things. And sometimes it works. Like, I'd also say this: there are bands that I know in England and stuff like that who would be paying maybe 500 quid a month towards people like that to try and get their 5,000 listeners on Spotify or whatever, you know. So like you have to sort of like, how much is that? Is this band being a business, or are they doing this as a passion and trying to, you know, be like, right, okay, we're doing this. We want to have a manager and a record label. So like I told you guys about this years ago. There was a label called Rising Records in England, and it was like a front where a guy just owned a studio and he signed bands, and the bands had to pay him 10 grand to make their album in his studio. And like he just effed off to the Bahamas with all the money whenever he was done with them, you know?
Legend. What a legend.
Like,
That's what I'm going to do that.
It's a really good idea.
What didn't I think of that? Fucking a legend. But there's, even with saying with that, like with PR, there's things like, you know, like we're saying Hold Tight, or is it Public City or Music City PR? Like there's a lot of really reputable ones that will get you on like Kerrang and get you X, Y, and Z, which a lot of, no matter how good your music is, a lot of these people will open their emails first. And it's actually just, unfortunately, the way it is, unless you get to a certain size. But then you're getting other PR companies that are like, you know, it's like genuinely, I feel like there's, you know, there's people fishing, right? And then there's the fish that are all just like trying to pretend that they're the fishermen, that are like, oh yeah, look, if you get onto us, you'll get onto this magazine or this or blah, blah, blah. Like Richie, I'm sure you've gotten some absolute dog shit EPKs and press releases and all this stuff that I know for a fact you've opened them up, looked at this and just went, no way. Yeah. There's just no way. Like that's like, but that band is paying someone send out the worst quality thing they possibly can, because they've been just given, they've been like, you know, like snake oil salesmen or whatever it is. Like bands really need to figure shit out themselves first.
I was going to say, it can be incredibly like harmful to a band's career having someone who's theoretically managing or booking gigs for them, and they're like, what they're basically doing is stopping the band from like going and doing that sort of stuff themselves, you know. Because I think that's like, if you have enough get up and go to be going and printing t-shirts and booking your own shows, you don't really need someone to manage it until that person can say, okay, here's how I'm going to get you onto, you know, this tour that's coming through Ireland or this tour in England, you know. Because like I remember we had a meeting with this guy, David Gentle, who worked for Iron Maiden's legal team, like, you know, doing legal affairs for them and stuff. And we were all like, is there any way to like, you know, get like in contact with Iron Maiden's manager? Does he take on people, you know, just because you want to fucking beg if possible?
Like, 100%.
But like, he was just all like, listen, if you can get someone like that to manage you, your band will become the best band in the world. But 99% of managers are not like Iron Maiden's manager. They're just like some guy who's trying to make money or whatever. So he was like, listen, you'd be way better off just manage yourselves. And like, we've been doing that for donkeys now, you know, years and years.
I think the thing as well is like, there's a lot of bands that when they first start again are like I said earlier, like there's a band, I don't want to be saying them, I love them, they're great, from Cork, and they have a release coming out and they were like, oh, we want to go labels, you know, this is the goal. I'm like, don't think about a label, like figure out the business of your band yet. When you start figuring out a point that you can either use the band to fund the band's next project, even when you get to that next level, rather than have to take it out of your own pockets and, you know, figure out what works for your band, how to market your band. Don't be bringing anyone else into it. Don't be having any extra thing paid for them. You really need to figure out what you can do and how. It's like figure out the music business in any capacity, like any level, yourself first, before someone starts coming in telling you what it is. Because if you have your head screwed on and someone, you know, like you figure out and start asking advice from friends that are doing things that are bigger, like don't be afraid to message bands that are that bit bigger than you, being like, hey, how do I do this? What is this? Like, you know, I've had people that message me about promoting gigs or doing anything like that. And always help them out. I've jumped on Zoom calls with people, not to say that I'm anything fucking of worth, but the fact that someone wants to reach out, 100%, this is what I know. I don't know if it's right or wrong. This is what I know. But there's too many people that jump in with the intention to get a record label or like.
I think they genuinely don't know any better, unless they're going to go to maybe, we'll say, music school. There's plenty of music colleges out there. I'm sure they'll get a heads up on that, and there'll be people in there that are paid and have dealt with hundreds of people moving through different levels of courses that can give them solid advice and point them in the direction.
I was lucky enough to do that. I was lucky enough to do that. But I'm still telling you, even if I never did any of those courses, there is nothing like actually figuring out your own band's business. Your band is a business, whether you like it or not. It is a business if you want to be able to keep it going to a point that no one's going to be like, oh, it's too expensive. It's like, well, you build up enough to create a project to make money off the next project, and that's just kind of the way it'll go. But if you're coming in waiting straight away to be like, oh, we want to sign to this label or this label, it's like if you're looking for a good label to sign you and you've released one single, like, unless it's like they really see that people are buzzing off this thing and they're like, oh my God, like, this is incredible, people are going to love it. It's like a lot of labels or managers or anything are like, you do all the work first.
Yeah. You only have to listen to the interview we did with Wormhole Death Records.
Yeah, actually,
for reference. Use that as a reference, because
like everybody wants. Like, I was talking to Alex Vinci about. I have great talks with him about this kind of stuff. But I'm not going to be naming things that he said. But like, a lot of the time, it's like bands that you think like, oh, they should be on this label or blah blah blah. It's like they're all coming back, just being like, nah, wait till you're selling this much and then we'll work with you. Because this is the thing with music, is like, it's the only business that you can fail 90% of the time and still be an absolute success. Do you know, like there's the 10% that makes up for the 90% that failed. So like, they're looking for that thing that's already done, already work having put in, that are like, right, these guys have proven that they're able to do all this to a certain extent, that we're like, right, cool. And people are already buying them. They don't really need us, so now we'll jump in.
Joe, what are you saying there?
And that is actually the stat, is 90% of the bands who get signed to record labels never make a penny out of it, So the chances of getting signed or whatever is, whatever percent. But once you're there, like, the chances of making money is so low, because, and it is specific with heavy metal, because most other music forms, the publishing and stuff is worth money. It gets used in advertising and gets played in clubs and et cetera, and you don't really get that with metal anymore. So it's sort of like, because the publishing isn't worth an awful lot, it's very, very hard for people to monetize it out of the gate. I was speaking to Alan from Primordial about this, and he was saying that even like labels like Metal Blade and stuff like that, a lot of the bands that they have recently signed, like Cryptic Shift or Space Chaser and stuff, they'd be like, they wouldn't be in a position to give them tour support of $2,000 to go on tour. It's like, just because they don't really see the return in it the way that they would have used to see, where like they would say, oh, we sold an extra 1,000 copies of that album on CD this month,
Yeah.
So it's hard to do.
There's a lot of bands or labels now that there's like, it's like, well, I can kind of compare it to skateboarding, I think, is like, where you have like amateur and like, you won't make real money until you're pro. You might get a few little small things. That it's that same level of dealing with distribution things, where there's Blood Blast, that's Nuclear Blast, and it's just distribution. What's the other one? Survivalists are with.
We should know that.
Blood Blast is Earache. Yeah. Like they're on. Like they've not long ago started the distribution thing, and that seems to be the way labels are kind of like, this is cool, you can release it through this. I'm not entirely sure what way the deals work or anything, but it's like, it's not, you know, it's labeled not committing to anyone fully, but also having their finger in the pie kind of thing.
Like this episode is mainly aimed at younger bands starting off, because I mean, majority of bands are in that we all know and have been on the show are at it a long time.
Yeah.
So maybe just like the advice that we're giving mainly would be for younger bands starting out, and just
write good music, and be the best live band you can possibly be. Like everything else, if you are fucking really, really good, or like depending on your genre, like, you know, if you're like a mental band where you run around or blah blah, or like if you're a band that's just so incredibly tight, or if you have like a weird stage show or something, like focus on live, because that's where word spreads. And when you really start focusing on being this band that's like,
that's the start of advertising your band, you know, like as in if you're good live, people will buy t-shirts, which will enable you to, you know, building the band's profile up, you know, and forget
about that, and they go for other things first, and it's like, don't.
Yeah, that's it. And like delegating, like the issue with management for young bands especially is like you're delegating a responsibility to someone who is most likely not going to care as much as you do, because until there's money involved, people are always going to be like, yeah, well, you know, I can't be bothered doing that. Like, whereas if it's your band and your music and stuff, you are better trying to do as much of it, you know, much of that management side yourself, I think.
And also, if you're coming to the end of your leaving cert, or if you're 16, 17, 18 coming through, Ireland has 100% got some of the best universities for music. Like Galway, there's one in Galway, there's one in the University in Limerick, Maynooth, UCD, UCC, Trinity, Griffin College, Dublin Business School. There's even, I just took a sample there, Joe, of it's a music production level 6 in Ballyformet College for Education. So in year 1, you'll be given experience in the music industry, marketing and promotion of musicians, professional development, applied sound principles, recording technology, creative software techniques, live sound techniques, fundamentals of composition. And the end of year 1, you'll get a cert for a higher national certificate in music technology. And then in year 2, you've got creative research projects, you've advanced music production, music systems programming, advanced synthetic or synthesis and processing, live mixing, composing to a brief, sound for media productions, and end of year 2 certificate for higher national diploma in music in production. So that's just Ballyformet, what they have on offer. So like,
I went there.
Yeah, that's there you go. Like, I know a lot of people that have been on the show that have been there, and it doesn't necessarily break the bank either. But for what you'd learn just for 2 years, needn't have to be fucking 4 years. For 2 years, that'll just
you have a choice to do 1 year as well. Same with Colossus on NEFA.
Yeah,
I did that course as well, because I couldn't find one course that I wanted to do everything I needed with.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to go Lone Lads on tonight, just to talk us through that, because they've all gone through that.
Yeah.
But like, my point is that there's fantastic colleges out there in Ireland to support you as you make your steps in the music career, be it management, be it sound production, be it in a band. How long did you spend in Ballyformet? 1 year, was it?
1 year there, and then 2 years Cork.
Right. And what you got out of it?
Look at me now. Absolutely nothing. No. I met, honestly, I met a lot of good people and good contacts. I feel like when it comes to metal, maybe Dublin is more, you can kind of, I think some of these courses, apart from like School of Music, No, that's not even true. It's very hard to find something that you're like want to be a metal band. I think a lot of the time when it comes to like doing heavy shit, you got to just start doing it. You got to really like, you got to start pushing on and figuring out how to be in a band and things. There's things that you learn from these courses that are like unparalleled, like of, you know, musicality and like I have friends that I went to these courses with that are doing full time, you know, making music full time, being able to play even covers gigs and their own music and producing things and recording things. And I got fucking scared when I was like finished my leaving cert, thinking that because everyone at the time in Kilkenny anyway was being like, I remember my what's a career guidance teacher, what a cunt, but he was like it was like, oh, what do you want to do? And I was like, music. He was like, nah, there's nothing to do, you can't do music. So instantly you're just kind of like afraid to push and be like, you know what, I want to learn this stuff. I want to. So even though I was doing gigs all the time, the idea of doing it as a full-time career scared the fucking shit out of me. And I never tried to go for like one big course like School of Music or anything like that. But that's a massive regret for me, that now I have to like try build my own little empire in some way, which I'm loving doing.
Yeah.
But I have people like with so many of my friends or my girlfriend that is like they work fully in the music industry, you know, in different ways, that now I'm trying to find a way that I don't have to.
But Ev, do you find that like are all those people they're not working in hardcore or metal really, are they? Like they're working with like popular music?
Yeah, well, even some of it's like, you know, you have like teaching and stuff like that, which it doesn't really matter what kind of music you're in, it's just actually doing it. I was just little things like that. I just were always like such, oh, you can't do that. No, you're from Kilkenny, like you're supposed to play hurling kind of thing. But I do know a lot of people outside Ireland that are making full-time stuff off metal bands, but they're not flush or anything, like, you know, which is
people work it. Like this is something we should probably talk about, like Richie, is that like there are bands out there like Hell Ripper who are specifically doing it as a one-man project because it enables them to make a living out of doing it that way.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I make all the money from the t-shirts, I write all the songs, I make the album myself and just give it to the label. You know, he's in the position where he can make money off the records off the bat, you know, as well as, you know, hopefully like, you know, do well on tour with merch and stuff as well. So
yeah.
I think that could end up being more of an option for, you know, smaller bands. You know, they're going to say, how can we do this where we can all make some money instead of having 6-piece bands? You know, like something that you used to see a lot in metal a few years ago was bands with keyboard players, and you're seeing a lot more 4 pieces and 5 pieces at the most these days, you know.
Yeah You'll make the most money with a 3-piece, but
yeah I look, Hell Ripper is a great example. We have 1 or 2 of them here, young Thomas Hines that we were talking about there. There's these guys that are passionate and they are savvy enough to know what they need to get to the next step. And if they want to go down the educational side of it with music, it's there on your doorstep, lads. That's all I'm saying. Shop around, have a look, see what suits you, and, you know, head to college and do your band stuff at part-time, do it over weekends, practice, keep playing, you know. And there is a great system in place in the Irish metal scene that we can all help, you know. And
I can't stress enough though, the other thing is like there's no time limit on it either. Like, you know, if you're in a position that you're in, you know, like about to go to college or whatever, it's like if you really want to just go, then do it. Like absolutely push it. If you're 42 and you've never ever picked up an instrument in your life, you're 60, do it now. You know, like it could be. It doesn't. There's no set like age, like people always had this thing of like, oh, when I'm 40, or I remember when I was in like my early 20s and there was guys that I was in bands with, they were like, oh, when I'm 30 now, like I'm probably not going to be playing anymore. And the idea of stopping at 30 is so ridiculous that it's like, why would anyone entertain that kind of thing? It's like that thing that's put on everyone of like this time of, when you're this age, you're supposed to have this, or when you're this age, you're supposed to have this. It's like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Music can be a very, very long slog, but you know, the more you're taking in, like, just be a sponge, really, really be a sponge. Like during lockdown, those 2 years, I was never more of a sponge in my entire life. I was like, right, I'm going to figure out how everything works. And I didn't, but like I'm figuring it out more now that I can be around people. It's like there's no like, oh, sorry, you actually can't play this gig because you're too old, or that is bullshit. Like I think a lot of people have a fear thinking like, oh, we have bands like God Alone that like are younger, that I think when they're 30 that we'll all be calling them younger no matter what. But
yeah,
you know, like it really doesn't matter. You can start an instrument, start a band. Like, look at actors. There's some, could you imagine like a kid actor version of Robert De Niro? Like,
your age should not define you.
No, not at all. Like, and this is the thing with music. Like, just learn to be good. Learn to be good. And I can't stress with anything. Just be a good live band.
Yeah,
you want to gig all the time. I'm telling you, something will gradually happen. It's very taxing and hard to do, but
I think that's again why it's very important to choose your battles, you know, because like going gung-ho and burning 3 members of your band because they can't make it to rehearsal every Wednesday, like you need to weigh
instead of the yellow t-shirt, and you know,
exactly, you need to weigh up the pros and cons of stuff like lineup changes and, you know, trying to make it work for everyone, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's just different skill sets you acquire as you go further along your career.
Yeah,
this is it.
Yeah, and as I said,
look, feel something happening. Like,
we are all here for you. Please hit us up if you need any advice. That's all I'll say. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Evan, and crucially, support your metal scene.